Welcome to Happily Ever Aftermath, the podcast that explores the movies that influenced how we view love and romantic relationships. Yes, there will be spoilers. I'm your host, Diana Rojek Skonnord. Fencing, fighting, torture, revenge, giants, monsters, chases, escapes, true love, miracles. We're here to discuss The Princess Bride, 1987, and it's probably best that I discuss this movie with my true love. Hi, Ryan.
I'm not the Red Pirate Roberts. My name is Ryan.
Good one.
Thank you.
That's a pretty good one right there. Oh, my goodness. So The Princess Bride, it's one of those movies where, in my background, it's iconic. I would imagine that it broke all the box office records, and I actually managed to, pretend that I knew the history of it, where it's just oh, it was a total flop. And no, it wasn't. It was actually a modest hit. But at the same time, though, considering how iconic it feels, I assumed that the entire world was that way, especially in the last year of the pandemic. There were two major Princess Bride events meant to be fundraising / hey, I'm sorry, we're all sheltering in place right now, so let's watch something. Being the, the made at home, shot by shot.
A live table read, only remote instead of live.
Yeah, that was a fundraiser for a political Democratic thing in Wisconsin. And the other one was groups of people recording at home to do shots of the thing and piecing it all together to make the remake movie. One. Oh, that was beforehand. It was, sorry, I kept that from you apparently without trying. But it's a incredible movie. And for those of you who aren't familiar, number one, we will spoil the crap out of it, so get the hell out of here and go see it.
For both of you who haven't seen it yet.
I mean, you mean our non-existent future children?
Sure.
While homesick in bed, a young boy's grandfather reads him the story of a farm boy turned pirate who encounters numerous obstacles, enemies, and allies in his quest to be reunited with his true love. I think it's great that the IMDb description decided to use the framing device as part of it, which is funny because I remember when I watched a lot as a child, rewatched it thinking that framing device dated it so hard, rewatched it again for the podcast, and I'm just nah, I'm good. I'm really good. But
you're good with the framing device?
I was good with the framing device.
Yeah, it definitely was dated, though. In fact, there's been chatter about a remake of this movie, usually followed by much louder chatter about how it ought never to be remade. I did kind of like the idea, though, that they should just remake the framing device and leave the rest of the movie alone.
That actually works pretty well.
Yeah.
Except they redid the framing device for the Once Upon a Deadpool, where I guess Deadpool is reading the story to adult Fred Savage.
Okay.
I guess
I was not aware of that one.
Okay,
either.
so that's now two things that I'm just throwing at you pop culture wise, and
that's fine. That's just saving material for air, right?
Well, no. What I'm getting at is just why is it that I'm picking up all of these? I don't know. I guess I don't have a Googler that says Princess Bride and various things in pop culture to let me know this. So I think it's fascinating. But
could it have anything to do with sitting around the house all day with nothing to do but scroll through the internet?
No.
The entire internet.
All of the internet together. Let me get to the cast here. Yes. So I actually delayed beginning this podcast by about 30 minutes because I was looking for a video where the star of this movie pronounces his own name, and I could not find it. I heard other people pronouncing his name, so I'm going to say starring Cary Elwes, Wright, Mandy Patinkin, Chris Sarandon, Christopher Guest, Wallace Shawn, André the Giant, Billy Crystal, Carol Kane, Peter Falk, Fred Savage, and apologies to the other people who were part of the end title credits, but they're not high on my radar, so I'm sorry.
Yeah, I believe there were several significant bit players that I'm not quite enough of a movie nerd to know why I should recognize them.
Okay, fine. It was Peter Cook and Mel Smith, but I
thank you.
Yeah, I don't know who they are. I just felt really bad for leaving them out. And the person who played the mom and the person who played the woman that booed at Butter. Okay, you know what? Just keep going here. Oh,
and that's the entire cast. Aside from a few guards who didn't have lines and that Brute Squad guy, that's about it.
And Rob Reiner, who was directed. And oh my God, I'm going to gush, and I'm going to keep gushing. So Ryan, why don't you tell me a little bit about how The Princess Bride came into your world, even though I already know the story?
Yes, well, I was dating this girl, and she kept talking about how great it was, and I feel like I already told this story for True Romance and a couple of other movies that the
Mm-hmm.
in the early years of my relationship with Diana, and Diana was big into movies then, much as she is now, but in sort of a different way, and her enthusiasm carried with it this backlog of films that I just had to see, and I was like not a movie fan, but I wasn't. I guess my horizons weren't that broad, and there were a bunch of titles that I just hadn't really landed in my lap yet, and somewhere near the middle of this lengthy list was The Princess Bride, which I was familiar with it through just general pop culture reputation. I feel like that movie has sort of grown in reputation and become much more of like an essential niche classic now. I had heard of it a little bit back then. I want to say mostly through fencing, since I was in fact a fencer in real life at the time, a sport fencer, of course.
Mm-hmm.
And
In fact, on our first date, you did the flippy thing just to impress me from the movie.
Oh, right. I was trying to remember. I think there was at least one point I demonstrated a footwork thing as it came up in conversation. But I was like, was that our first date? It was like, oh, she's doing a thing. Yes. I completely did an aerial forward flip.
Yes. Somehow you managed to make a reference to the choreography of this movie despite never seeing it, just to impress me.
Yes. But Diana exaggerates. It wasn't the one where he like goes all the way over the bar. It was just the one that Mandy Patinkin did with the regular aerial somersault.
You mean that when you fell in front of me? Yeah.
Yes, and and I was unconscious, and
You also did the benevolent thing where you helped a guy up from a cliff and then decided to fight him.
that was a weird restaurant.
Yeah. You're trying too hard to impress me.
Anyway, so yes, this movie has a way of looming large in I guess like modern sword fight choreography, because classically that was like a big part of cinema, the whole Errol Flynn era, and then I guess that was one of those things that like fell by the wayside and occasionally got resurfaced in later years, and this is kind of a rare movie that has a lot of that like really old-fashioned, like fast, flashy sword fight choreography that of course has nothing to do with real fencing, and I believe the all the names they're throwing out of the fencing masters whose techniques they're utilizing, I read somewhere, probably in one of the same places that Diana has read it, that those are the names of actual fencing masters, but the relationship ends there. It has nothing to do with reality. So but I'm not here to talk about, the movie's so unrealistic. I mean, you can tell that by looking at it. But nonetheless, that did not stop fencers from talking about it, merely by the virtue of it making sword fighting look very cool, and even glamorizing the notion of spending years and years studying this, that the payoff is that it turns you into a total badass. So of course people like that. And
I don't think this had the same impact of people wanting to learn fencing after seeing The Princess Bride. Was similar to after Top Gun, when so many people just decided to join the military, so they become pilots.
Yeah, we make different life choices.
Yeah, most of them decided to learn how to play volleyball instead.
Yeah. At least I didn't sit around trying to build up an immunity to poisons. That probably wouldn't have gone well. That
would have been so cool. It's so dangerous.
You just have to get through the first 18 months of vomiting, and then
Right. So, I do remember the gentle pestering of how you needed to see this movie. I don't remember when I won that battle.
Do you remember the book?
I do remember that you bought me a copy of the book, and I read the book.
I think that was a birthday gift.
Could have been. It was definitely a gift.
Yes. Do you remember the backstory to that gift? Aside from like you had me watch the movie and...
No.
I had actually bought that book intending to read it myself, and
then you forgot it was my birthday and then gave it to me?
Well, I didn't forget exactly, but I did notice it was coming up and didn't have any better ideas, and I thought, this is, I think Dinah will enjoy this.
Okay.
More than, because there were like 3 or 4 other books in that Amazon package, and I hadn't gotten to that one yet. This was in the very early, this was when Amazon almost exclusively sold books. That's how long ago it was. So
Wow. Yeah.
Amazon, the online bookshop.
What I remember a little bit more clearly was I was really excited that we were going to watch this movie.
Mm-hmm.
And whatever, be it most likely my copy of The Princess Bride that we brought or used, the extras, hey, cool, let's watch the trailer first. And the trailer laid out the entire movie. And I'm like, oh, God, this sucks so hard that you just saw the whole thing in 2 minutes. And I was very angry. Fortunately, you weren't as pissed off about it as I was.
I mean, it's not a very suspenseful movie.
At the same time, though, it's nice to watch it as it's meant to be rather than don't show the ending.
Even kind of makes fun of, you know, the kid being read the story and the framing device, and you know, it's like, oh, this has a happy ending, right? And you need the trailer to tell you that. I
enjoy having some guarantee of not being completely destroyed by an ending of a movie.
That is a difference between us that we've talked about in the past, that I have a bit more ability to to put myself in the proper mindset as though I were watching a movie the first time, even though I've already been spoiled by the ending and can still enjoy it. And you kind of need the actual
well, as I get older, it's a little bit easier because I tend to forget more things, so it's just like, oh, I knew that was gonna still good though, still good.
I enjoy just like watching the setup and
well I in order to defend myself, I possibly told this story on the podcast before, and I'm going to tell it again, where we went to go see Mission Impossible, the most recent one, number 7.
6.
I don't.
They don't use the one after Rogue Nation, right? Fallout. Mission Impossible Fallout.
Yeah, Fallout.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry. I'm just thinking Ghost Protocol. This is not what this podcast is about. But the point is that I'm watching the movie. I'm seeing this setup for one of the big moments of what was supposed to happen. And I really, really had to go to the bathroom, despite the fact that I prepare myself for these things. Mm-hmm. And I'm just like, I think I can see what they're setting up to do. And I also see that they're setting up one thing where the plan is supposed to go this way. But I also remember the person that they're trying to get to, something happens, and then
should we go ahead and describe this in detail? Because
I don't want to, because it's a spoiler for people.
Okay, the movie. It's been out for 2 years. No. I think this is interesting because what Diana's referring to is there's a very brief shot in the trailer of a truck filling up with water, right?
Yeah.
And
I know the person who's
right
in the truck and in that scene in the trailer.
You were watching the setup of the big heist isn't the word exactly, but like the big caper, the elaborate plan of them to hijack this truck and get the VIP out of it. Mm-hmm. And it's like next to a river, and based on that information alone, Diana was like, oh, the truck's going in the water, and the fact that the truck goes into the water is supposed to be a surprise. But you put that together off of like maybe 3/4 of a second of footage from the trailer. Yeah. See, I think they're counting on most people not retaining that level of detail.
I was defending myself in that's how much I can really put these things together if it's fresh.
Yeah.
So,
and how many times did you watch that trailer?
Like 3 times.
Yeah. See, that also it like the average is probably less than 1. So, well, maybe more. Maybe.
I'm going to use the fact that we just talked about water to talk about the shrieking eels, so that way we can come right back into the movie we should be talking about right now.
Yeah, if you want to talk about the movie, sure.
Those eels used to freak me the hell out when I was younger.
It freaked me out when I was watching it today.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I don't know if
I don't like water creatures.
Well, I don't think, to be fair, they're shrieking eels. I don't know if real life eels shriek.
I don't believe they do.
Oh. Well, then I was going to say, I don't think that's realistic that they were shrieking. But they're right in the name, so that's perfectly fine. Yes.
I'm not sure they would surface right before they attack you, but
that's exactly what...
You wouldn't even know there was any danger otherwise as a film viewer.
But that's what Wallace Shawn said they'd do. They want to feast, and they shriek when they just before they surface. Okay, never mind, doesn't matter.
Okay.
One of the things I wanted to point out, so I watched this when I was younger. If it came out in 1987, all I know is that I picked this up in syndication, and I definitely recorded it off of Comedy Central because I could tell you where the commercial breaks were. And also, more importantly, I can tell you that they did not cut very much out of this movie. There's not much to cut out in terms of like...
Just that one F-bomb from Wallace Shawn,
I don't remember an F-bomb. I've seen this movie so many times. Which F-bomb?
That was a joke.
Damn it! I'm sorry, there are some instances where I cannot understand exactly what they're saying because of half accents and also like blatant, speech choices that they've made. I believed you.
I'm just trying to imagine where it would fit.
The thing is, though, I believed you because I knew that there were very kind of random things that I was worried that when we watched it again it happened, and I'm just like, wait, what? Well, in the trivia, there is some apparently obscenity in Spanish that I didn't know, and also because of the Spanish, it's like, shut up. I believed you, and now I feel totally betrayed right now.
Everyone, tweet the line from this movie that would be most improved by using your one allotted F word. You can still get a PG-13 rating.
So what I do remember them cutting out and watching it was in the scene with the iocane powder and the battle of wits. The part where he's talking about Australia was completely cut out. Because I thought it was pretty interesting that Wesley went really, really angry when he said, "You're stalling!" And I'm just like, oh, there's an entire middle part there that he got kind of mad about, and it didn't really make that much sense. And the fact that I think he was commenting that it's just like in Australia is fully part of prisoners, and I'm just like, was that cut out for content? Because I don't think they need it for time. Yeah, doesn't matter.
Does Comedy Central go internationally? I don't even know.
I don't know. Couldn't tell you. Maybe it was replenished in the remastered edition.
Yeah, I mean, maybe they just needed an extra, 20 seconds of runtime trimmed off, and that was the most expendable line.
Well, to be fair, though, the more important cut that they made, that always, I want my father back, was all that I knew. Because You Son of a Bitch was cut out.
On cable? Huh.
Yep.
Odd choice.
I don't know.
I mean, that actually, I was joking, but that actually is like the kind of one reserved use of profanity for the entire movie. And of course, it has more of a punch because like no one else is cursing through the entire thing.
Yep. Except for the Spanish that I wasn't paying attention to that I read in IMDb trivia.
Right.
Yep. So, I remember watching this in your room. I believe that you had the 13-inch TV VCR combo with the DVD player connected elsewhere.
If it was on DVD, we would have watched it on my PlayStation 2. Yes.
Oh my God. Maybe I did own this on VHS.
I think you might have.
Was that the thing where the trailer was like after the VHS and you had to fast forward to get to the special? I don't know.
Diana lives for these kinds of details.
No. I mean, you think, because I'm remembering things in trailers and then it's just like, cool, I can go to the bathroom now.
But yeah, after our first viewing, I definitely thought that it lived up to its reputation. And it's funny approaching this movie because if you know nothing about it, it's a little bit difficult to take it on faith that it's going to appeal. Like the real reason that it holds up so well is that it just has this incredibly charming writing from start to finish. But just to explain the premise, it sounds very bland, which is kind of intentional because it's this sort of like classical uncynical fairy tale thing, and
with satire.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure I'd even use the word satire if I want to get all eggheaded about it.
I read it off a review. Please continue.
Yeah, more of a
tongue in cheek.
But yeah, I'd say an homage first, and can't quite tell if you'd call it a deconstruction. I'm over extrapolating from a small number of like
that might have
literature courses from college. It was not my major.
I'm wondering if a deconstruction could be claimed years later just based off of someone's interpretation, or for one person it would be and another person it wouldn't be because they're taking it in different spirits.
Yeah, I guess it. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's a deconstruction, but not like a terribly critical one. It's not like, oh, this genre is so stupid. It's almost more like, because I'm a little bit out of my depth here, but there's like the deconstruction then reconstruction, which describes Diana, a lot of your favorite movies. That's what like Hot Fuzz and the Edgar Wright parodies do, where like the first movie is kind of like the first half of the movie is taking down all the cliches, but then the second half is like a celebration of why we love the genre to begin with. Princess Bride just feels like that second part throughout. It's just like hey, cynical 80s audience, isn't it just great to have this like sincerely pleasant story after all, amidst all your
Well, this movie would kind of be the sincerity, because I can imagine in Hot Fuzz Nick Frost's character asking him, "Have you ever stabbed the enemy of the man who killed your father?" And said,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
said right before you did, "Ah."
And and it was all too easy to identify with the grandson character as you're seeing this, because like, especially if you don't like really know what you're getting into, or if like the movie is supposed to be amazing but you can't for the life of you say like, why is this supposed to be so good? And like the title could not be more like girly if they tried, and it's just sort of not representative of what I'm kind of just summarizing the whole dynamic between the Peter Falk and the Fred Savage characters. But yeah, you get into it and it's like, oh, not only is this an adventure story with very little of the lovey-dovey stuff, which might be a problem for this podcast shortly, but we'll get to that, or maybe not.
Not my problem.
Yeah, but moreover, it's packed with comedic talent and wit and very charming writing
and incredibly talented people delivering those lines.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my goodness! Just rewatching it for the podcast, I was simultaneous. Okay, I love this movie. I have had so many revisits break my heart, and I was just really concerned about being disappointed about something. And I am very pleased to say that very, very little potentially disappointed me.
This is perhaps like the strongest possible example of a movie that holds up.
Mm-hmm.
And because of the subject matter and the fact that like so little of it is even capable of becoming dated, that there's almost there's nothing in it that can age poorly,
except for the framing.
Except in the framing device, yeah. That
mm-hmm. Yeah. Some things can age. I mean, I don't want to get too far into it. Just the, again, those things that are actually meant to be in the villainy of these people. The Spaniard. And it's so funny when. You have the six-fingered man, and she's like, he's evil, and depending on how it is. And I guess in the writing of it, like the impressive clergyman, the reason that was written is because the author was amused by this other like church person who had a speech impediment, so he wrote that in there, so it's for humor. So like I said, the things that don't age are the stuff that's like behind the scenes and kind of like deeply rooted and that you have to really be looking for. So it's always possible. That was not a challenge for people to say like, this really holds up, and then the internet comes a running. And because if you tried, and it's actually not hard to find, there's a section where it's just like, wow, Buttercup sucks ass, and they refer to her as basically what is it, she's a lamppost, or not a lamppost, but there's this whole thing if like you can replace a woman character with a lamp. Yeah, so like no, it's there. It exists. Yeah,
in the sense of being like a living MacGuffin, like the men pursue her, and yeah, which I think that is sort of part of the genre homage,
right?
Yeah.
Right. No, I read the counter argument to that. Where she actually, that was a little bit too harsh of a criticism for her. And if you actually pay attention, that she does have a lot of, she does provide her own, not rescuing, but she doesn't just sit there and do nothing the whole time.
Yeah.
She's actually like constrained by what is allowed. In this world, the prince says, I get to marry you. And it is actually said in the voice in the narrative. It's just like, because he was the prince, he was allowed to marry whoever he wanted, and she didn't fight it. But at the same time, she wasn't just like, my prince, whatever you want.
Yeah, and the active parts are like, she negotiates for her own safety right as they come out of the fire swamp, and then the only
thing she could offer.
Yeah, and then threatening to kill herself if she's forced to marry, which kind of drives the plot of the last section of the movie.
And it is the only thing that she can offer.
Yeah,
which is kind of unfortunate because he kind of wants that. Spoiler.
True.
He's like, oh, okay, well, your dead body, that's cool.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I do think that I wouldn't even call it like a weakness of the movie or a liability, but just like one of the constraints that you're operating under when you talk about it is the fact that it is like self-consciously this fairy tale story. It has this whole framing device that kind of communicates that to the viewer, that really it's only the the grandfather and the grandson who are obligated to behave like actual human beings. The rest of them are supposed to behave like characters in a novel, apparently a very, old-fashioned kind of novel. And as I was kind of doing the math on like, well, what were Wesley and Buttercup thinking during these beats of, losing each other and refinding each other. And I almost think that like getting too analytic about it is kind of, it requires turning a blind eye to the whole conceit of the story that these people are supposed to behave like fairy tale figures,
Mm-hmm.
And
well, Wesley is perfect.
Yeah, exactly.
That's all. That is all my commentary.
And Buttercup is as perfect as circumstances permit, I guess we might say. Depending,
maybe. I mean,
I'm sure. Yeah, we'll get into the details, but I did think this is.
Oh, I should probably clarify that. In my mind, Wesley is perfect. Do what he does.
Oh,
because you were just saying like, Buttercup is perfect. I'm like, oh, I'm sorry. Is she your perfect woman? I'm not aware of that.
No.
Oh no, that's I wanted you to know that that's what I was going for. In you're talking about the characters as how they're portrayed. I'm just saying in general, he was my prototype.
And that you want me to do any kind of household chore immediately when you say it.
Oh, I was thinking that you could retire pretty quickly and we can go live happily ever after.
Oh, okay. The beginning. Okay, so the.
Okay, let's back up a step here. Approximately, 10 to 13-year-old Diana watched this on a loop. So you've got Cary Elwes playing this character, and then he's dashing, he's charming, he's hilarious, and then he's Robin Hood, and he's dashing, and he's charming and hilarious. And as we have noted,
differently hilarious, but still,
as we can note that if I can watch a trailer 3 times, what makes you think that if I'm watching these movies in a loop, it's not going to imprint on my brain of what I want in a partner?
To elope? Was that Freudian slip there?
No. I wanted a big party.
You want a big party?
And by a big party,
with Cary Elwes, though.
No, he was taken. Remember, that's not how young me worked. I wanted the prototype.
Sure. Cary Elwes is a naturally charismatic human being. He can like we were talking about the sincerity. Like he can sew those lines without a hint of irony or detachment, which made him just invaluable for Men in Tights, incidentally, because he is the straight man you want in that kind of film,
And yet at the same time, just some of the lines, like as he's fighting André the Giant, and he's just like, just having a conversation, and he's being crushed against a rock, and
only he can make that sound cool.
I just think it's amazing. And then when he finally wins the fight, he's just like, wait, may you rest well and dream of large women. It's like I guess it's sincere, but it's so great.
Yeah. So larger than life characters all the way through, and as I was saying, that makes this kind of a fascinating meta choice for this podcast, just because it kind of seems to confound some of these questions that you like to ask. Not to rush your segue, but I mean that's kind of what I'm.
No, it works, and it what was it? We were watching within the first 4 minutes of the movie. The narrator said, and that's when she realized she truly loved him back. And I started writing it down. Okay, so approximately
when they fell in love. Mystery solved. Thanks, Columbo.
Yeah, Peter Falk. Thank you so much. And then also what you were saying about when he was still being referred to as Farm Boy, you're talking about his ability to deliver these lines. Or I was saying it. You were, I assume, agreeing with me. But also make note, in the first few minutes of the movie, all he was saying was "as you wish," and he knew how to deliver "as you wish." And at some points, he didn't have to deliver those words, and he was still winning.
I bought the relationship.
It wasn't a relationship. It was his devotion to her, because all we could hear was she would torture him, and he was in love with her. And it's just like, oh my God, that sounds so horrible. And as I'm watching, I'm like, oh.
Yeah, I mean, is that just the power of being two young and profoundly attractive people that, even if she's treating him like dirt to begin with, it's
that there are tropes to that
Yeah.
are quite satisfying if you tell the story correctly. What you were saying before about how this is one of those movies that really holds up. First thing that popped in my head, because I've been obsessive about The Mummy and the fact that we did The Mummy for the podcast, and when I rewatched it, I loved rewatching it.
Mhm.
Oddly enough, I bet you if I were to rewatch it now, because my expectations are so high, it'll probably disappoint me. So I'm going to let it sit in the memory vault for another 4 or 5 years.
Space it out.
Yeah, absolutely. So for me, I'm really thinking about it. It's the whole adventure thing with a love story in there. The difference is that with The Mummy, you're watching it unfold, but with The Princess Bride, it already happened and you're watching it solidify. And it's fun to have a little interlude in between where she doesn't know that it's him as he's
Right.
rescuing her. And when she was saying, when she was describing him, it's just like, oh, well, marrying this prince, tell me about this apparent true love that you used to have. And, she talked about how he's, poor and perfect with eyes like the sea. And I'm like, I'm looking into them right now. And the reason that I think that she wasn't able to see it is because he was looking at her not with that devotion, but with that 5 years. I mean, you could make the case it's been 5 years, but at the same time, I don't think I can ever forget your eyes, honey. So
Sure. 5 years plus how long have they known each other before that? Like probably less than 5 years.
But
you make an excellent point. Yeah, the fact that he was. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of that in the movie. In fact, even what you were saying, it recalled to me the line about why is there fear behind your eyes? He says that to the prince at the end, I think. So yeah, maybe if they were seeing something else in each other's eyes, because that was the beat of the relationship arc where Buttercup thought Wesley was dead, and Wesley felt jolted because she had gotten engaged to the prince instead of waiting for him to come home.
Right. Her line was, "You were dead."
Right. And the engagement was not really her choice, or it was. She was like so deep in grief and depression that it was like, whatever.
Yeah,
I guess I'll agree to this.
Right, and also what is kind of great after that, and kind of makes it even more amazing, even though it's an action adventure, story for the for the grandchild. He says, death cannot stop true love. It can only delay it a little bit. She doesn't even seem to realize that he is killed in the middle. And because he came back once from death, she will never doubt it again. She says that to him. And that's even like better because confession time, I was very Fred Savage watching this movie. I'm just like, oh God, the kissing part. Yeah. But also, can we not hear this damn kid talk about how ill the kissing part? It's like, don't say these things out loud. But can we get back to the sword fighting, please? Can we get back to the revenge story, please? Because it's cool not to like the girly stuff. The Princess Bride. Why would we, want to watch that kind of stuff? Angry tomboy me. Well, no. Okay. So young tomboy me, and then eventually angry teenage me, where it's just like, yeah, let's get to the revenge again.
You've never lost the ability to be cynical about a movie. It's okay. I find it endearing.
Challenge accepted. I'm going to somehow make it not endearing, and the microphones turn off.
Oh, was that the challenge? I thought the challenge was to be uncynical about a movie.
Oh no, I'm sorry.
No. Okay.
I took it the way I wanted to. Just to
no, that's impossible. No, to make me dislike it. Well.
No. Oh, okay.
As you wish.
Aww. That's so nice. No, that cannot be your new superpower.
I didn't say it all devotedly though. That was more.
Well, that's what happens when you get into the later years of your relationship. I love you.
Oh, are we? Are we the what happens after?
As you wish. Well, I do ask you to fetch some pictures for me when I really don't want to move a quarter of an inch. Oh, but
every year we're together, the distance gets shorter.
Ryan, can you turn on my microphone, please?
My arm can't reach.
That's not what the line is. But I mean, yes, Wesley was in love with her before the movie started because the narrator said so. There is a literal point out of when she realized she truly fell in love with him, and I'll say maybe 35 seconds earlier in the realm of the story, that was her falling in love with him.
Yeah, that was thought provoking, because I was like I said, I was turning it through this sort of like analytic process that, as I was saying earlier, doesn't really work. But the thought did pass through my mind, like, did this start off as an infatuation? Was he like in love with her, quote unquote, just because she's beautiful, or was there, But I'll just go ahead and say, like, the fact that he's, saying as you wish, like you said, not just with, adoration or attraction, but like a sense of devotion to it, and b, the fact that they are living in very close proximity, despite having this sort of employer-employee relationship. I think it makes sense to assume that there was enough of her true personality that he was getting to know. And I mean, I can sit here and speculate about, like you said, 35 seconds of storytelling. But it's like, we have the narrator telling us that she enjoyed pushing him around, but that doesn't mean that like she was a bad person. Maybe this is just like the only power she had in her life, or maybe Wesley always kind of sensed it was playful. So like the fact that they were able to grow fond of each other, with that being kind of their only dynamic, it suggests that there was, something more happening to it. And I think it's a little bit fun to speculate what that might be. I'm not going to sit here and pretend to have a definitive answer, but this is a very artful movie, and there was like a lot of implication written into those 30 seconds. So yeah.
Speaking of implication.
Mm-hmm.
When I rewatched this, something I thought was interesting, and something that I'm probably just running with, but I want your opinion on it. The second time, when she pushes him down the hill, after she realizes, oh my God, it's him again, and then she herself throws herself down the hill.
You laughed so much at that.
I know it's coming, and yet I'm just like, oh God, this is going to be so dumb. Oh, this is so great.
It's just the fact of, instead of like trying to work her way down on her feet, she just like resigns herself to tumbling, just like throws herself shoulder first.
Well, I mean, she had to get there as fast as he was going, and so if she gave herself... Yeah, she did.
Okay.
Well, also, okay, no. I was thinking, well, maybe she's trying to, hurt herself as much as she may have just hurt him.
Oh, interesting.
But no, that was not my point entirely. Here's the thing. They come back together. It's a wonderful moment. And he's, he says the whole death cannot stop true love. And, I will never doubt again is what she says to him when he says, I'll always come for you. And it's so great. And sure enough, they start kissing again. And that's when the grandson comes in. Oh, the kissing again. Can we skip this part, please? And he's like, and the grandfather actually says, okay, fine. So he flips some pages, and then he says, okay, now they're in the fire swamp. And I was just thinking, oh my God, what was in that dialogue that he switched? Because, I mean, now granted, it was like a page, but at the same time, he's just like, all right, the kid doesn't want to hear this. I'm like, was it flowery prose? Was it more?
was it the part that got cut for content on cable?
Well, clearly not, because it was in the movie in general. I'm talking about what's in the book. And wait, right. I've read the book, so I can't answer that for sure.
Yeah, it
was just an observation that I had. I thought that was fun.
I've not read the book. I've read synopses of the book, and I gather that like it was a lot more focusing on kind of like the experience of being read the original book as a child, which to read it, I understand. In fact, I think you were confused by this the first time you read it, that
yes.
The original book that William Goldman is talking about did not exist. It's not fictional, but fictitious. It was invented for this, and
written by S. Morgenstern.
Yeah. Who was not a real person,
right?
And
definitely confused me when you got me the book, and I'm like, I don't know what's happening.
So it's the abridged version, but I do remember reading about how a lot of the original novel was sort of making fun of these like classical novels that had no modern sense of editing or pacing, and the author could just put like pages and pages of whatever junk you wanted in there, and that I want to say like he posited that the original book that he was summarizing fictionally had like these long not just like the like flowery prose of the kissing passages, but also these like weird detours into the politics of the two kingdoms.
Oh. Is this the part where Wesley and Buttercup meet Tom Bombadil?
Something like that.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Got it.
Yeah, and just and it was sort of this meditation on how these like classic works of literature have to are better enjoyed kind of in abridgment, or just like, oh, you've read it the first time and it was a slog, but now that you've gotten through it, you sort of have the privilege to flip around and read whichever individual chapters you want. Diana might relate to that in the way that she, consumes her favorite movies.
Oh, yes, very much so. Yeah, I definitely read books that way, so I think I
Mhm,
appreciate that. I mean, do you think they got into trade agreements too in those pages between the the two kingdoms
Yeah, I know, most likely. Yeah, and political successions, and in fact, it even
and
reminded me of.
metachlorians?
Yeah, it reminded me of like one of the main things you hear about, like Dante's Inferno, or the entire Divine Comedy, that like so much of it was like about contemporary Italian politics, and how he was like satirizing these contemporary figures by depicting their souls as being in hell. And it's like that and you're, if you're reading it, it's like half this poem about like the Christian view of the afterlife and all these like mythical figures, and then like random Italian politicians no one's ever heard of, and it reminds me of that kind of thing.
And if they remade it in the 80s, they'd have a Mr. T reference?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that makes more sense. Okay. I just thought it was interesting that I pieced that together. Like, the kid doesn't want to hear about the kissing, and I'm like, how long did they kiss?
Yeah, exactly.
Into the fire swamp. And I will say that this time on this rewatch, I guess my brain edited it to where when Wesley was being attacked by the ROUS, when he managed to set it on fire, I remembered it running away. But that's not the case. He killed that thing.
Yeah, that is.
Then it made me sad.
That made me mildly surprised as well, and I knew Diana was going to react that way. Diana does not like a dead animal of any kind in any movie, not even the vicious ones.
Nope. Vicious or not.
I will say, okay, so Diana, would you agree that, RUS says, I don't think they exist, and then he's tackled, like...
That's so good.
Among the greatest comedic timing of any movie, or the greatest comedic timing of any scene in a movie.
He's nailing it this whole movie.
I know.
And I know the line is coming, and it still gets me.
I noticed that was a long take too. That stuntman in the costume must have been like crouching there for a long time, just waiting for it, and then bang, it's so perfect.
Oh my god. Okay, so while I'm fanning myself because I love that scene so much, can you get us started on what you think happens next?
Well,
no, I'm still laughing.
Yeah, I just want to enjoy this for a minute.
No. Okay, I'm here.
No, this is gold. No, you gotta leave this in. Okay. So I was pondering this question, and I kind of went back to what I was saying about how it kind of like defies analysis, or defies criticism, or defies the structure of the show, because like part of the conceit of this exercise is like, some movies have realistic characters and others have these kind of, broad strokes, versions of reality. And
I'm going to remind you that we've had movies that have similar framing devices, but it was actually the relatives of the people talking about their past ancestors, and that was the story, and that they were both dead. So what happens next? I'm not going to let that stop us from whether or not this falls into our podcast.
Oh, of course. No, but I mean, even if we're saying like what happens next to our couple, to Wesley and Buttercup, that
oh no, I was talking about the grandkid and the grandson.
No, I got that.
No, I'm saying what happens to the grandkid and the grandson.
Oh, that's the only question you're asking
all
me?
I care about.
Oh, okay.
No, I don't care. Please continue.
The story comes to like such a natural end because of, sort of the nature of the genre that it's very self-consciously existing in.
Mm-hmm.
And Inigo sort of gets his future of adventure. He gets to go take up the mantle of the Dread Pirate Roberts. But yeah, I don't really feel inclined to do the thing of like, do they stay together? Do they have enough of a compatible personality to, make a marriage work, in contrast to the infatuation of the early days of the relationship, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, that's often where I go with this question when I've been on the show before. But, in this case, like the movie is, as I've said, so uncynical, and it is the love between them is presented as so passionate and so pure, to borrow a phrase, that really it's I very nearly used the word inconceivable there, but I didn't think I could sell it. It's
Your self-awareness is beautiful.
Thank you. That yeah, that would have been, no, I'm not funny enough to stick that one. But I think it's sort of outside of consideration that their marriage would be anything but happy. But I did think, like, what sort of life would that marriage exist in? Because do they go back to the farm? Do they go back to poverty? Do they, because like they've both had these very interesting brushes with wealth as a pirate captain and a near princess, and I'm inclined to think that Wesley has developed too much as an adventurer to go back to agricultural life, and I don't even know what's going on in Buttercup's head. She's been through all this weird trauma and like repeatedly losing her love and so on. So
being kidnapped.
Yeah.
Finding out that she was meant to create a war. She was meant to be a plot point in a opportunity for a monarch to start a war with his rival.
Yeah, so clearly it's a life of adventure for them. But what manner of adventure, especially considering he just gave up his pirate ship? I almost worry about him having like seller's remorse about that. Like, oh dang, actually, Inigo, can I come back? And I was also just thinking like how interesting it is that there's this like common element of petty crime kind of running through the movie, and that all of our protagonist
Heroes.
and sympathetic character, like
I was just thinking about that.
Yeah, Inigo and Fezzik are mercenaries and very nearly murderers for hire. Like they kind of express some compulsions about that, but not enough to bail.
Well, I mean, they're just like, well, as long as the boss is doing it, and I guess it's okay.
And that, and he's living out there in Thieves Forest, and is that it? Yeah, and then and it also like right alongside the Buttercup sucks part of the internet, people are speculating like, what exactly was Wesley doing when he was Dread Pirate Roberts? Was he like robbing people?
About that.
Did he murder anyone?
Yeah.
He spoke flippantly about killing enough people that he can't keep track of them or something, and maybe that's just bravado. A pirate who's so feared that he never has to fight is more profitable. I think that's even a grain of truth in how it worked in real life.
I don't know if it's the prequel is the right word, but like maybe the story is a mid-cool. Like, what was he doing in that 5 years?
Oh yeah, I've heard people talk about wanting to see that story too. But yeah, I mean, I think within enough of this within the sort of like fantasy genre, medieval genre, there's enough of concept of the lovable rogue, heroic rogue, for them to sort of go off and maybe be like charming petty hucksters, or pickpockets, or
again,
con artists.
It's relative, because you have the Count who killed a man because he wanted a sword, and Lord knows what else. Oh, and also, I'm sorry, the Pit of Despair, where he tortures people, and is
writing a book about it.
And well, I mean, for research.
Yeah, you probably have to skip parts of the middle too, because it's too boring.
Posterity, once you get quotes. And then you also have the prince who is decided to start a war by murdering an innocent woman, so he could say like, oh my God, my wife, we better go to war, using her as as I said before, a pawn. So again, it's relative. It's like, you know what? These people may have like plundered and like are out for revenge and are mercenaries for hire, but at least they're not the prince.
So what I'm hearing is that there will be no shortage of corrupt and unsympathetic aristocrats for Wesley and Buttercup to steal from and con to keep them in comfortable, charming adventures.
How do we know?
With witty lines for the rest of their lives?
How do we know that he's not going to pivot into some sort of Robin Hood scenario where he starts to take down the monarchy, robbing from the rich and giving to the poor?
I'm not sure I see it.
No, that seems too like cliche. But, okay, to be fair, the narrator did say that they went off to live happily ever after. I can't remember how specifically
That's
it was.
canon.
That is actually in the movie, yes. Should I make note of the fact that there is a unwritten sequel called Buttercup's Baby in the book? And there's like a few preview chapters of it.
No, it was okay. I have a vague recollection of that, but I don't remember the details. Now, was that like something that William Goldman was planning to write, or was that just part of this sort of like metafiction of
I think it was part of the metafiction.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Which I brought it up because I wanted to make sure that it was like noted. But again, the whole book versus movie, what is and is not, also we can decide whatever it is that we want because it's our enjoyment of it. So
it is your podcast.
I think so, or at the very least I'm the one who's posting it, so
right.
Yeah, and when I was bringing that all up too, it's like you're saying the other adventures, and I was just thinking about that mid-cool thing. I'm just like, it's gonna be like the Bourne Identity, where like once Buttercup is out of it, and then it's just about how he can do parkour and shit. It's not gonna be as interesting as all this other stuff, all this intrigue and whatever. It's not as interesting. It's the heart of the movie, the relationship that kind of anchors the story as a whole. Otherwise, it's just like, okay, some agent guy who does a thing.
Maybe his first mate gets a girlfriend. Could be like a B couple.
Oh, so like Ocean's 12 then, where Rusty gets a girlfriend and that made it okay? I
don't really recall that movie.
That's kind of my point. Ugh. No, I understand. No, we don't. Well, no, I mean, like sequels, it's just going to be the same story again, but this time it's somebody else who's doing the exact same story, kind of like a Cinderella story, where it's just like, oh, it's a Cinderella story, but instead of it being Hilary Duff this time, instead it's Selena Gomez
or Russell Crowe, or
Russell Crowe as
a boxer. That was a different movie. Never mind.
Yeah,
no, okay,
no, that's fine.
She was already married in that, I think.
Correct. Also different era.
Yes, the villain was the Great Depression.
That's always the villain. Always. Did I answer the question? Did you answer the question? Or did you
question about what happens next?
What happens next? I know.
Yeah, heroic rogues.
Okay.
Defrauding the unsympathetic rich.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did we call that's what that is? Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm okay with that.
Cool.
I don't want them to have kids.
Yeah?
I don't. Even though it says like Buttercup's Baby and all that other stuff. For some reason, it's just like, I just watched a TV series where like the kids ruined it. And for some reason, I don't want to watch that story. I know this is like made up in my head, but just watching these horrible child actors ruin the story is upsetting me to know this is hopefully working in the meta of
whatever happened to it can be whatever we want.
That's how meta it is. These damn kid actors are not doing it for me, and they're ruining it.
Did Fred Savage poison you against the whole concept?
Maybe it was The Mummy Returns. Oh, freaking kid. Okay, fine. 3 kids.
Did we skip to like when they're 15 or so and get like
the kids?
Yeah.
Okay.
Get a tolerable actor in there.
I don't know. Well then what are they gonna be? Dad, I found out that you were the Dread Pirate Roberts. Is that true? No. And then he runs away and then they have to go after the kid. I hate this movie already.
Well, there's your hook to get Inigo back into the story.
Because they need to
go find the actual Dread Pirate Roberts or the one at the time, so find out the truth.
Well, what's probably going to happen is that he's not going to be very happy about it, and he's going to have like a 14-second cameo where it's just like, no, I gave that up a long time ago. This is where you need to go, and then he gives them a map, and that's it. Contract done. I guess I'm also young version of me is still bitter that Emilio Estevez was in Mighty Ducks 3 for about 4 seconds, and he was the star of it. I have problems. Okay.
Yeah, longer than he was in Mission Impossible 1. How do we get back on Mission Impossible again?
Well, when there's that many movies, eventually you can... 6 Degrees of Mission Impossible.
It's just he was billed in that too.
Yes.
Another fake out.
So they dethrone the monarchy or they demonetize them? Wait, no. What if they just...
Like social upheaval? Nah, I mean...
No, it's too hard.
It's a little much.
Yeah. Also,
because princesses are romantic. We don't want to like take down the entire power structure.
Okay. I think that's good enough.
Okay.
Alrighty. Thank you, Ryan.
Oh, thank you.
It was nice to revisit this movie, to talk about it in a very unorganized fashion of gushing. And
we skipped a few pages, but that's okay.
How dare you? I also want to point out that a big reason that I picked The Princess Bride is this is Happily Ever Aftermath's 100th movie.
Did you say 100th episode?
100th movie.
I see.
Because while you look into the counts, those of you who like to be specific like me, I did not count things like Recipe for Seduction as a movie. And I definitely do have a spreadsheet that makes note of what was and what was not a movie. LA Podcast Festival, we talked about Titanic, but I didn't think we covered Titanic, but we did talk about Titanic, so that is one.
And there was at least one movie that took 2 episodes to cover, for which I was partly responsible. I'm sorry.
I did like to talk about My Big Fat Greek Wedding in 2 parts. So that's 100 movies. And thank you all for riding this adventure with me. And I look forward to many, many more movies. Hopefully, I won't be so fixated on the fact that it is divisible by 100. So, if you want to gush or give us some sort of other opinion about The Princess Bride...
Everyone congratulate Diana on 100 movies.
Okay, that's very, very kind of you. But The Princess Bride...
She deserves it.
...is a movie that you can also talk about, or any of the movies we've talked about so far, or any movies that you might want us to talk about in the future. You can find us on social media. You can hit us up on Twitter at HEAMCast. That's HEAMCAST. We're on Facebook and Happily Ever Aftermath, and also on HEAMCast on Instagram. You can email us at contact@heamcast.com. Ryan, are you still lurking on social media?
Yeah, I'm on Twitter. I'll be in the threads for this episode. You can reach out to me too if you like.
Yeah. So thank you so much for talking about this wonderful movie with me.
Yeah, thank you for having me on. Congratulations on 100 movies, and I too look forward to listening to many more and being on a few of them if I can talk you into it. She doesn't think my movies are relationshipy enough, but we'll see.
Well, we've kind of sucked the life out of the most relevant ones. Mm-hmm. And by suck the life out of, I mean they were part of the first 100 movies. But if it comes up, I'm gonna be very happy to have you back.
She's given me a lot of latitude on the action movies so far. Was that a Freudian slip?
I was about to say, wow. Thanks for clarifying by saying latitude.
She's given me a lot of latitude on the action movies so far, but I think there's a few more where it's like, no, I know this relationship only takes up like 15 minutes of runtime, but there's a lot of substance under the surface. You just have to.
I've learned that lesson in the 100 movies, and in fact, turns out my own imagination ran with relationships that I'm just like, oh, that was really not in this movie very much, was it?
But that is what we do here, isn't it?
I do. So, all right. So until next time, may your aftermath be happy.